of course, if you've got any questions, now's the time to open your mics.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. Sorry I was late in joining. I got held up in another meeting. Perhaps I missed it at the start, but I have a few questions there, and I was wondering, first of all, if you have an aero sensor of some sort, could you wind and yaw map a course to input? Because typically, like, weather forecasts are taken from stations maybe 10 meters above the ground, and it's not always relevant. If you have that option, could you map a course with an aero sensor and then put that data into to get more accurate yaw representations in the model?
I mean, to give you that piece of information, what we said maybe before you joined, we make a lot of assumptions to keep it simple. And as some of the triathlon partners here will know, for example, we spend a lot of time in Kona doing exactly what you just said, wind mapping over heights. So mapping it 10, 5, 2, 1 meters over the entire course. So we actually have a model that's in the back end of our tool that takes forecast wind data, which is typically at 9 or 10 meters. And we adapt that depending on the terrain that's expected in that local area to what we expect for wind conditions on the ground. So there's a bit of a model that works in the background. But to answer your question, can you actually upload currently a yaw map? No, but it's something that we could consider for the future. Again, the goal with the tool is to make it as simple as possible without making it too complex for the average Joe to be able to use.
For example, in those CDA versus yaw curves, I mean, the team has the possibility to input them because they are in our wind tunnel. We know those curves. For like the public, we just take an assumption. But I think it's a fair assumption because, as we said, it's not really the goal to predict the time. It's the goal to see differences in setups and pacing strategies. They're like, it's not that important to have the exact CDA versus yaw curve. But of course, for the wheels, we apply the CDA versus yaw curve differences to the options. So you see a wheel that sails more will be better in conditions where the forecast is predicting a lot of wind. Because it has better sailing. So we take this into consideration, but like more focused on differences and less on predicting the exact time, because then you would have to input like a gazillion more parameters which are not that important for the use cases, pacing strategy and equipment selection.
And I think it's a good example to explain how we take complexity and make it simple. We take that, say, burden away from the user. So yes, in the wind tunnel, so when you select here a road bike or a TT bike, from all of the wind tunnel data we have, which is mapped over all of the wind angles that you can have, we have a yaw curve, so that represents a TT bike. We have a yaw curve that represents a road bike. We have speed effects, so you get less good aero at lower speeds than you do at high speeds. We have the effect of tires, we have the effect of wheels. So we have all of this data, and that's all in the simulation engine, but you don't need to define it. So the way the simulation works is actually quite complex, but we make a lot of assumptions for you as part of the simulation.
I guess it's fairly similar answer then in terms of, can you input different CRR figures for the individual segments? Again, in the interest of keeping it accessible and reducing complexity, you assume one CRR for the entire course, do you?
You can segment by segment, you can define the roughness of the road. But yeah, I mean, typically you probably don't really know it by segment, but you know, like this race is more rough because it's or more smooth because it's in Switzerland. So
yeah, but I mean, it's a good point, Ronan. And again, I'm going to jump back to the triathlon crew here. The reason we do have this functionality in the tool was because of Frank, you were there, Ironman World Championships in Utah. The first part of the course, the first 40 kilometers, was ultra smooth, brand new tarmac, and then it switched to the worst rough chip like New Zealand surface for the next sort of 100 kilometers. And for this reason, we have the ability where you can go for these first segments, beautiful smooth road, and for these next segments, shit, because it does make a difference on the rolling resistance. And again, you can't enter a specific CRR coefficient because we think that's beyond what the typical user can do, but they can certainly select rough road or smooth road if they've done a visit of the course. So there are some slightly more advanced features baked in, but again, in the simplified way.
What kind of courses do you have in your database? Do you have all the Ironman courses and the big marathon race courses?
We don't have all of them because we just started with like a set of courses which we think is like most important, but we will continue adding courses to the list. But you always have the possibility to upload a GPX or FIT file in case the course is missing. So which is typically, I mean, we only have Ironman or triathlon courses here, but if you have a local Strava segment, you need to get the GPX file somewhere else and upload it.
And of course, like, you know, for most races nowadays, whether it be triathlon or road races, on the organization website, you can download a GPX. So once you've downloaded it, you can upload it, and then the course is there. And you can just upload it here through the course file. So yeah, if the course you want's not there, you can upload anything really. And a really good thing, again, talking about complexity simplified, actually mapping a course is quite complex. So we talked before about cornering ability in a corner. So we have this is something we've had for a long time. It was quite a thing we had to solve for the World Tour teams. How do we map corner trajectories? So actually, when you upload a course and you map the course in the background, our platform is defining corner trajectories, racing lines.
Yeah, I mean, we do our best, but I mean, of course, it depends a bit on the source of your GPX file. I mean, there's a difference if you have a GPX file that comes from a ride, or if you have a GPX file that is, for example, produced by VeloViewer. Because in VeloViewer have the sharp edges, and if in your normal ride you have, and you also have some noise. So we do the best we can to somehow normalize the course, that it doesn't depend too much where the course file is coming from. But of course, if you have a GPX data from one of your rides and you had really bad GPX connection and you were actually riding in the forest, I mean, yeah, it gets difficult. This is also why we want to provide like official courses for you guys.
And another one, if I may, if maybe 200 or 500 athletes use this for their preparation and their racing strategy in Roth, will you have any feedback loop after that, after the race?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in terms of, we're going to run actually we're using Challenge Roth as a use case where we're going to invite, with Triathlon Magazine, a bunch of athletes to take part. We'll advise them beforehand. We'll advise them also, we'll get their results after the race and we'll give them some feedback. Of course, athletes can rerun their race afterwards once they know what their normalized, what their actual power was from the weather. So I mentioned earlier, the weather also acts retrospectively. So once the race is run, you know what the weather was. So they also have the ability to rerun their race, so to speak, and then have a look. Could they have been faster? How do they improve for the next race?
But this is manual work because we don't yet have functionality to upload your race and then compare it to your simulation. I think it's also because we did all those like assumptions. It's also not that you know, you will have another rolling resistance, you will have a different wind, you will have your CDA won't be 100% accurate. So it's a bit, yeah, it's challenging then to really do this comparison fairly. So I think it's best now just look at your power numbers you had, input them, see what the difference is between that and the one that was optimized.
Because of course, you know, athletes can get back in contact with us if they have questions, and we'll of course through the customer service do our best to answer.
And we also hope that the users use this feedback form that is linked on the page, on every page.
Yeah, so that's an important thing. We provide this feedback solution on the platform because we understand. You know, of course, we've done quite a lot of work with beta testing groups leading up to launching the platform. So we think we have a good solution. However, in practice, there'll be things that people want, so people can directly leave their feedback. I didn't like this. I don't understand this. They can upload a screenshot. So we're committed to doing a continuous improvement of the platform moving forwards.
Yeah, I was just wondering on the cornering ability, how do you collect or assess that?
It's an estimate. So, you know, with the World Tour stuff we've done, we see that different riders have different cornering abilities. It's actually amazing the range. And so we make an assumption that, you know, the person here is a bit average, more on the average end. Do we have a difference between road and triathlon for cornering? Because cornering on a TT bike is either way.
Yeah.
I think we have on the TT cornering is always a little bit less aggressive than a road bike cornering. So these have been baked into the back end. Again, make it more simplified. Is that something, Ronan, like, you know, from of course, we've got to be clear here. We haven't talked about the subscription models that we have. There is going to be a team version. And of course, the team version has a lot more complexity where you can
overpower after corners and stuff like that. But only like, I think for the normal user, these are secondary factors.
Exactly.
I mean, it won't change your pacing strategy drastically if you are a little bit better in cornering or not. It won't change your equipment selection that much. Yeah, but I mean, of course, it will change what it will predict, the time it will predict, and if you are faster and downhill, then you
I was more just you just mentioned that it had been done, and I understand that it's been simplified for the simulation tool, but I was just wondering like how had you done that in the past? And I think you had mentioned like G-forces and stuff, but
yeah. So I mean, in the complex tool, which is in this simulation engine, it's just not something you have direct access to. There's, you know, braking G-force, there's turn in, there's mid-corner G-force, there's acceleration out of a corner. All of these parameters you can tune for a particular rider. And as I said before, it's amazing the difference you have between even World Tour level riders. There are guys who are just extremely good at cornering and guys who are really terrible.
I mean, you can calculate like the theoretical maximum of fastest cornering that's based on grip, but then you need information about, you know, like the surface and tires and stuff. But then you can calculate what would be actually possible. And then the rider capabilities then defines how close do they come to this like theoretical fastest cornering. And braking. I mean, it's both braking before corners and then go through the corners.
But it's an interesting one. What we could do in the future if we see that it's designed maybe more for road use. I think for triathletes is less of an issue. But we could, for example, put a cornering ability slider to say I'm a hero to I'm really bad at descending. So you know, but as Jörg said, in terms of the purpose of the tool, which is to guide you. What's the best equipment choice or what's the best pacing strategy, it's probably not really going to have an impact on that, which is the main purpose of the tool.
Yeah, fair enough.
Cool. All right. I mean, again, if there's any more questions that come after the webinar today, feel free just to email us. Yeah. So thanks very much for joining us today. Yeah, we look forward to any feedback, and have fun with the tool. And for those of you who will be in Challenge Roth, we will see you there.